is a Dodge Charger. But it isn't an ordinary Dodge Charger. This is the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat Redeye, and it's the fastest sedan on the planet. It has 800 horsepower. It'll go over 200 miles an hour. And today, I'm going to review it. Before I get started, be sure to check out Cars and Bids, which is my new online enthusiast car auction website for cool cars from the modern era. If you're looking to sell a cool modern enthusiast car from the 1980s and up, Cars and Bids is the place to do it. You will get the most views and the most money for your cool car. And if you're looking to buy a cool car from the modern era, Cars and Bids has an amazing selection with daily auctions. Check it out, Cars and Bids at carsandbids.com. Now, the current version of the Dodge Charger came out years ago, but it seems like every couple of years, Dodge releases an even better high-performance version than before. There was the SRT, and then the 392, and then the Hellcat, and then the Hellcat Widebody, and now there's this, the ultimate Dodge Charger. For now. This is the Charger Redeye, and it truly is the fastest sedan in existence. I reviewed the Charger Widebody on my main channel, and that was amazing. It had over 700 horsepower. This gets a 90 horsepower boost over that to 797 horsepower, and it really is the fastest sedan in the world. It'll do over 200 miles an hour. Think about that. The base version of this car you can rent at any airport Alamo rental car in the entire country. The top version of this car is faster than a Ferrari F40. And today, I'm gonna check it out. First, I'm gonna take you on a tour of the Hellcat Redeye and show you a few interesting quirks and features of the craziest sedan on the planet. Then, I'm gonna get it out on the road and drive it, and then I'll give it a DOUGSCORE. All right, I'm going to start the quirks and features of the Redeye in the most obvious place, under the hood, where you can see the massive engine. Now, last year, the Hellcat Widebody was the most powerful, fastest sedan, top-of-the-line Charger in existence. This year, the Redeye is even more most powerful, fastest sedan, top-of-the-line in existence. 797 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque. It'll do 203 miles an hour, and it'll run a 10.6 second quarter mile stock. This thing is running 10s from the factory. It's incredible. It's impossible to explain how insane these numbers are. Truly unbelievable. Now, my very favorite powertrain component in this car, aside from the massive engine and supercharger, is a feature called the power chiller. And what this does is it uses the air conditioning refrigerant to cool down the supercharger, and it can cool it up to 45 degrees. That way, you're doing a lot of drag strip runs, your engine gets really hot. A lot of people put ice in their engine to cool it down between runs. This car will actually help do it for you automatically using the air conditioning refrigerant. That is a pretty cool touch. But anyway, let's move on to some other quirks and features of the Redeye. And by the way, like I mentioned, I reviewed the Widebody Charger in a longer video on my main channel last year, and I went through a more detailed look at the quirks and features. I will link that in the description below so you can check it out. Here, I'm going to cover the highlights and some new stuff, starting with the hood, which is new for the 21 model year. All of the Charger Hellcat models will get this hood. The reason it was updated is because the Redeye model specifically needed a larger scoop in front to suck in even more air to get that full 797 horsepower. So for 21, new hood, larger scoop, and this is what it looks like. A couple of other exterior items worth noting. One is the massive fender flares, crazy looking. We saw these before on the Charger Widebody. This car retains them, but they still look massive and imposing and intimidating, and I just love them. Now, the fender flares obviously cover up the tires, and in front, the tires are huge, 305 width, front tires. A totally crazy figure for front tires in any vehicle, but this car has a lot of power and they want to make sure you have as much surface area contact with the ground as possible to stay at least somewhat safe. And next up, you really gotta hand it to Dodge for the color combination of this particular vehicle. You got a black hood, then you have a purple exterior. Although they don't call it purple, Dodge calls this color Hell Raisin. You get it? Because it's Hell Raisin, and also it's the color of a raisin. Actually, I do kind of find that funny. But anyway, in addition to that, you open the door and you have a peanut butter colored interior. So you have purple over peanut butter. That's not a combination you're likely to see again, but then you put 800 horsepower in a car, you can get away with pretty much anything you want. And by the way, speaking of getting in, this Charger still suffers from the same issue as all the Chargers. The front doors just open too far. So you get inside, the doors open, you literally cannot reach their grab handle without doing something insane. You have to grab the door by like the storage compartment at the bottom in order to get it closed. It's such strange design. And next up, we move on to the interior of the Redeye. Something I absolutely love. When you start it up, a Hellcat logo comes on the gauge cluster screen, but it's not just any Hellcat logo, it has a red eye, because this is the Redeye. That is a cool little touch, and I like to see that. Now, when you start this car up, you should know the exhaust note just at idle is really loud. Take a listen. And then it just sits there. Again, that's idle for this car. It feels like a Harley Davidson sitting at a stoplight and everybody can hear it. That's this car too. And of course, when you actually rev the engine for even more noise, well, it gets quite a bit louder. Take a listen. Now, the next thing I want to cover is price point. This car has a sticker price of over $87,000, almost 90 grand for a Dodge Charger. And I got to tell you, getting in this car, looking around, it sure doesn't look like a $90,000 car. When you open the door, I am still stunned by the lack of any sort of notation on the door sill. It doesn't say Hellcat or Redeye, but it doesn't even say Charger or Dodge. It's just this cheap looking piece of plastic. And there really is cheap plastic basically everywhere in this interior. The center control stack, all these buttons and switches look unusually cheap. How about this glove box latch? Not something you're going to touch often, but it's very clear that was the cheapest latch that Chrysler could find from any supplier in existence. And the general design of the Dodge Charger is so old that this car is just missing stuff that other cars now commonly have. For instance, no adaptive cruise control in the Hellcat Redeye, even though that comes standard on a Toyota RAV4. Shift into reverse, this is the backup camera. Terrible resolution, and it's the only angle you get. Basically, every other car at this price point gives you like 27 angles all around you, every wheel, every inch of the car. Not in the Redeye, you just see behind you, and not very well. You also don't have a wireless charger in here for your phone. Again, basically every modern car has it. Not the Redeye. They don't have space because this center console was designed like a decade ago and it just doesn't exist. You don't even have automatic windshield wipers in here. That feature is literally on pretty much every car and definitely every $87,000 car, but it's not in the Redeye. You have to manually turn on the wipers every time it starts raining. These seem like small things, but when you're paying almost 90 grand, you'd think they would matter, but you'd be wrong. You see, the thing about these cars is people who buy them, who spend the $90,000 for one of these, they don't care about the interior materials. Put it this way, if you came to the buyers of this car and you said, hey, we're gonna jack up the price by $10,000, what do you wanna see more of for 10 grand? They would not say, oh, better interior materials and plastics. They would say, more power. And so every time Chrysler improves this car, every time there's a newer version, a better Charger, it doesn't have a slightly nicer interior with different, it has more power. That's what people want who buy this thing. And so 800 horsepower. For $90,000, you might be getting a $40,000 car interior, but you're getting a $300,000 car performance level. And that is what the buyers of this car have demonstrated time and time again. That's what they want. And when you drive around in this car, you start to understand why the more power is so desired. And that is because it's just so thrilling. This car is just so raucously, insanely fast. It's hard to even really put it into words. And by the way, driving this car around for a little while, I can tell that it has more power than the wide body, or at least I think I can tell. 90 more horsepower at 700 plus, you would think that maybe it would be a little bit difficult to distinguish, but no, I think it's distinguishable. It's just... I mean, the rear gets out. You don't have any control over this. The rear just gets out. That's what happens in this car. You have to roll onto the throttle, and even when you do that, you're faced with an unbelievable amount of power just being pushed onto the ground. Has massive rear tires, still not enough. And by the way, earlier Charger models, even the original Hellcat Chargers, you know, they were kind of subtle. You couldn't really tell. Yeah, you could, but you had to kind of know. That's no longer the case. People know now. And driving this car around, it was in kind of a more populated downtown area initially. People are doing, hey, do a burnout. You know, they can hear it, they can see it. It's purple. It's got these massive fenders. I'm in the South, I'm in Charlotte. People have an idea about cars down here, cars like this. And so it's not really all that surprising. I will say though, if you want to drive this car around normally, if you just want to drive it, it's a reasonably drivable and usable car in an almost surprising way. The ride quality is not all that bad. Now again, you're gonna at some point come up against the fact that the interior is just not all that good. So you don't want to treat this car completely as like an only daily driver, just commute in it, because for this money, you could get something that's a lot nicer inside. You want to use what you're paying for, which is the powertrain, the performance. And if you do that, you will be richly rewarded because this car is so massively fast. Overall, I would say this is a really impressive car. $90,000 car, I mean, it depends on your point of view. If you want performance and basically nothing else, yes, this is worth it. It's an incredible value. If you look at this car like, yeah, I'll probably use the performance, but I want a nice car, this is not that. This is for people who really want to use the performance, and it gives you an enormous amount of performance. It's just dangerous. It's a dangerous, crazy, fast, insane car, and it's available to you, and it's getting even faster and even more insane, and I'm thrilled with it. I think it's awesome, but it's a crazy car. And so that's the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat Redeye, the fastest sedan in the world, which I am shocked to say is a Dodge, and a pretty exciting one at that, no surprise. Anyway, now it's time to give the Redeye a DOUGSCORE. And the DOUGSCORE is here against some similar insane vehicles. The Charger Hellcat Redeye gets the exact same score as the Charger Hellcat Widebody, although with slightly different scoring. The Redeye is a little quicker, but its value score is a little lower, as these are now just getting so wildly expensive. Still, this car is amazing if you can afford it, and if you prioritize power and speed above all else, this car absolutely delivers.